Clinical trials provide important information on the safety and efficacy of new drugs and therapeutics. However, less than 5% of patients with cancer participate in clinical trials. The majority of patients instead receive care through standard clinical practice, generating real-world data. This real-world data can be used to evaluate the outcomes of patient populations that may have been underrepresented in clinical trials. However, there's significant variability across real-world data sources, as data are not consistently captured in a structured or systematic way. The US FDA, responsible for evaluating the safety and efficacy of treatments, has signaled interest in supporting the use of real-world data and the evidence it generates, real-world evidence, to support drug development and approvals. This is evidenced in the timeline here by the draft guidance documents, as well as legislative requirements that have occurred in the last few years. This also highlights, however, the need to align methodology and develop best practices for use of real-world data. Friends of Cancer Research has therefore convened stakeholders for the last 5 to 6 years with the broad goal of developing and establishing methodology for using real-world data to inform clinical trial designs, evaluate therapies, and support regulatory decision-making. This began with our first pilot project in 2017 to establish definitions and protocols that were aligned to capture real-world endpoints like overall survival, time to treatment discontinuation, and time to next treatment. We then tested out these definitions in Pilot 2.0 in patients with advanced non-small cell lung cancer treated with immunotherapy or chemotherapy to identify the direction and magnitude of treatment effect, as well as evaluate consistency. This year, we completed our real-world response pilot, which established a framework for evaluating real-world response to treatment in metastatic non-small cell lung cancer and assess the consistency of the measure across data sources. The real-world response pilot, with initial results that were presented at the ASCO 2023 annual meeting and further details to be provided during our September public meeting, was comprised of real-world data from 7 real-world data partners, contributing data from 200 patients, each diagnosed with metastatic non-small cell lung cancer, treated with first-line platinum doublet chemotherapy. Our overall objectives were to assess the availability and frequency of core data components for measuring real-world response, assessing images, image reports, and clinician assessments, as well as evaluating the consistency of a clinician-based response measure across data sources. We are at an exciting time in our real-world evidence portfolio at Friends, as well as for the field. During our September 11th meeting in Washington, D.C., we will share final results of the real-world response pilot with a discussion on establishing a framework for evaluating real-world response. Further, in light of over half a decade of work aligning real-world endpoints to our multiple pilot projects, we will discuss lessons learned from real-world endpoint analyses and opportunities to use these endpoints in drug development. We hope you'll join us for these timely discussions, and you can use the QR code below to register. I hope to see you there.